What's up, everybody? It's Gutex. Let me know if you can hear me. And oops. Oh no, where'd the window go? Oh, there it is. All right, cool. Awesome. Yeah, hey, we almost did it right on like the first try. So what's up, guys? Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are. It's Gutex coming to you in the early morning on the West Coast, and I'm here with a special guest. Got my good buddy Carl, PerfectLegend, White on the.
Yo, hey, good. Y'all can see me. I'm feeling good. Dang, it is early for you. It's early for me too. It's like 4 a.m. for you. I don't know, man, but yeah, I've been up for maybe an hour or two. Yeah, I just woke up. I went to sleep at like 9. Oh, they say your volume is out.
Whoops, there we go. All right, I should be back now. All right, I think
They
yeah,
said my audio is good. You're muted.
there we go. I think I fixed it. Yeah, still working out the kinks, guys. There we go.
Oh,
Anyways,
it went out when you switched over.
yeah, I figured it out. Okay. All right. So, you were up at the butt crack of dawn.
Yeah.
I'm still up from yesterday. But you messaged me in a panic.
Oh, man.
You said it was an esports emergency.
Yeah, esports emergency. It's a blow up. Honestly, it's been going on for like the past week or so, and
Really? I've
yeah,
been off I've been off Twitter. Tell me, fill me in.
yeah. All right. So there's just been a bunch of stuff happening. Like a lot of teams been laying off their staff or teams just closing stuff up. And they're talking about like, investor money is drying up or investors are not investing because they're not getting a return on their investment basically, or they're not providing enough value as I've been told. And then like certain teams are just they're reeling back and just turning into everything to focus on content creation. So they're like that's all they're focusing on. And then you have two different crowds going at each other on Twitter. Like one says, "Oh, you should build a brand and diversify your skill set," which I mean that's great, honestly, in every field. However, I personally feel like we should have infrastructure to foster and nurture competition more than this show and tell. Uh, well, basically, it's turned to a show and tell industry where it's just like, hey, look at me, and I'm doing this, but it's not about the skill and excellence, and that's really all uh, competitive anything is about. But they've kind of diluted it and changed it to, well, we want to make sure we can get the most viewership, or we want to make sure everyone's involved. It's not really about that. There isn't really gatekeeping in competition other than skill, but they start gatekeeping the skill with other stuff by saying, oh, you got to do this and that. But clearly hasn't been like making a good impact for them to be closing up shop. But yeah, it's just been a bunch of different stuff on both sides. There's like one part of the crowd. It's like players shouldn't have to do this. They should have a team that does it. Or and then there's others who feel like, well, you need to diversify and be doing this and wear many hats and stuff. And I just feel like there should just be better competitive infrastructure in place for everybody. But yeah, that's the gist of what's been going on.
Now, when you say competitive infrastructure, what does that mean?
Like a legit ranking system that matters and rewards you. Um, like better incentive. There needs to be better event conditions too, because I mean, like no one should be playing on anything that has lag at all. And instability, it sucks when a player travels across the world to compete and they drop their combos, they wake up and hit right out of bed on the stage and they be like, oh man, bad drop. And it'll be because the hardware has been running all day, 24 hours. And It's just not optimized. So it's a bunch of different stuff like that. It's not just, the overheating, but just the instability of the hardware in general. There's not just that, but that's one of the issues. Is like everything needs to be optimized about maintaining the competitive integrity over the presentation. Or you can put just as much love into both. I mean, I don't feel like that is far fetched.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an either or type of thing. It almost sounds like what you're saying is that, now that you've been optimized, there's
Yeah.
no going back.
There's no going back from, dude. The FGC OS, the optimized system, is too good because it turns your entire system into like the best thing they could be. This is the fastest I've seen my computer ever move. Like out of any computers I've ever had, my restart is 5 seconds. Like that's crazy. It's like, oh, let me restart. Okay, blink, done. Like I'll be in a Discord call, like, all right, I'll be right back, and it not that much time has passed. You're like, oh, I didn't know you left. That's how quickly the computer restarts, and then how smooth the gameplay is, how much of the animations you can see, and then when you play a game that has 120 FPS, it's crazy, like how smooth it is and how much you can see and how much you can react. Recently, I played Tekken Tag I mean Tekken 7 with Arturo at 120 FPS. I mean, it was just like between us, me and him, dude. Like I could break every throw, I could block every like really slow low, or even like the faster stuff. Just my inputs overall were just smoother. Like being able to wave dash in and then block immediately when I want to, whenever I feel that they're going to do something or they do something and it actually happens instead of me getting hit. That's so much of a big deal because there are times like I know how it feels to play in all the different timings, right? So when I play in that, I can gauge how the 60 hertz feels, and when I play and be like, I would have got hit right there, I would have got hit right, and I'm blocking like different stuff like that. Or when he whiffs a launcher and I can launch him to whiff punish him as soon as it like happens, like on reaction, and I don't have to worry about my inputs being like dropped or whatever. We should be playing on that, especially with it being available. Like they already have it in games on console, at least. With on Samurai Showdown has it, Street Fighter 6 has it with the 120 FPS and the 120 hertz and the input reduction setting that they have in the game. So I think they should release a at least for this. I mean, like they should release an update to where like they can play all the games on PS5 with 120 FPS. I'm like, why not if they're going to do that? But that requires, I guess, the devs to update that as well. But at least like going forward with the new games being developed, they need to make sure they have that and crossplay. But that would just help our events at home be better, which I feel like is a part of the infrastructure. Like, okay, it is it is unreasonable to be like, hey, kid, that's really good at this game and it does have financial support, et cetera, travel to this event, which will cost you like $1,500 to $2,000 to get there and compete. And then the conditions aren't the best and all that. When you can play at home, enter online, and run the FGC OS and be able to play in everything, crossplay, tournaments. I mean, all the tournaments I feel like are going to end up being crossplay, and people have been qualifying through that. Capcom Cup, a lot of qualifiers were online.
Yeah, I mean, in
Just
the big $2 million announcement, they specifically said that there was going to be online and offline premieres, which, I mean, I don't know if they said, I don't think they gave a specific number for each, but I would imagine it's going to be, pretty even. So as to not, I mean, you don't want too many, but you also want more than a couple, right?
yeah, you want to have it like balanced out to where it's worth it to go and play in person, and it's still worth it to grind at home and play online too. And I think the online tournaments need to be optimized. Like no more of this. Hey, we need to stream every single match because uh, we're doing it for content, which I understand, but they should just work with the players. Like, look, you should stream your side or record your side, then send it to us, and then we'll do something with it. Instead of like you're basically holding up the tournament. Because when I show up at 10 a.m. to play, I'm fresh and ready to go at 10 a.m. I'm at my best at that moment. As the day goes on and it drags on, where I got to take naps and schedule naps just to be able to do, like, honestly, it's ridiculous. Events used to start and then end in like 2 to 4 hours, but now they want to stream every match. I feel like you shouldn't stream the matches up to a certain point, or because like just have them all play. Then all right, top 16. Now we're going to stream that, or whatever. I mean, you can size it down to whatever event, but I just think competitive integrity needs to be number one above all, because that's the only reason we're doing this, and that's for every game. And I know, esports games, the higher ones, they play on PC and stuff. They don't even have this problem. We're actually, what, 10, 20 years late to the party, actually. But that's just a part of, I mean, that part of the infrastructure is just like probably fight game related. But I think overall, for every game, they need to have just better infrastructure. Every genre, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been paying too much attention to what's going on in the outside esports world, but if it definitely seems like FGC has those infrastructure problems, but also part of the challenge when it comes to the streaming part of it, right, for the TOs, is that there's not a lot of TOs that really understand both sides of like the tournament, let's say, right? Like you can run a good tournament, but not know anything about what makes for good content and, how to properly monetize a stream so that, it doesn't have to be, not every event needs to be like 3 days, 16-hour broadcasts, like 48 hours of broadcasts across,
Right.
half a dozen different
They
stream
all got to be
channels.
pay-per-view events, like.
Yeah, there's something to be said for, I don't know, like being more efficient, or also, I mean, really, like these are all just software problems, because there's no reason that every match can't be streamed, right?
It's true.
Like it's not rocket science to load up, like 24 channels if you needed them, right? But the problem is that the TOs, there's like a real disconnect in experience and skill set between people who run tournaments and people who stream tournaments and people who make content. And, in the same way that TOs don't pretend to be top players, and top players, even though they talk shit about tournaments, don't, pretend to like, it's kind of like people stay out of each other's way, right? But the problem is that with tournaments and streaming, there's always like a lot of, I'm not going to call them like conflicts of interests, but I mean, that's essentially what it is, right? Because the streamer's just trying to like maximize, get that max CPM, whereas the TOs, once the event happens, the TO isn't necessarily making anywhere near as much on the stream as they do on, let's say, badge sales and, selling booths and stuff, right? Like that's the bread and butter. Even though when you look at other types of entertainment like WWE and UFC, it's like the content and the competition, go hand in hand, and it's a symbiotic relationship. But yeah, so going back to the esports side of things, you'd sent me some of these tweets here. Let me see if I can pull these up.
Yeah.
These are pretty fun. Okay, let's see. Jason Baker at Alchemister5. Maybe on the next big esports boom, investors will listen to people who understand the space versus someone adding a bunch of zeros to a pitch deck.
Yeah,
Oh my God. Well said. Well
yeah,
said.
man.
I mean, is that something? Well, I mean, I don't know about you, but I've seen so many of it's been a while since I've seen them, but for a while I was seeing these like esports pitch decks all the time. And it's like you see the same you basically see the same presentations, the entire over and over and over, people just like sharing the same, almost like sharing the same slides, like,
Yeah,
oh, esports is going to be like, oh, last year esports was like $500 million industry, by
yeah. It was.
2025 it's going to be like 10
Yeah, it was
billion.
super. Everything was like super inflated.
Yeah. And all that stuff, I mean, whatever. You have this type of hype in any growing industry up until the point that interest rates get cut, or sorry, interest rates start to get raised consistently and layoffs start happening because I don't know, because economic times are tough, right? Whether you want to call it a recession or not, it seems pretty undeniable to me that like a lot of people are feeling some of that pain right now because you
Yeah,
have it's because everything is more expensive. Apparently there's tons of jobs available. Apparently unemployment is down apparently, but I don't know, somehow seems like most people are broke. So all it's all fine and good to believe your own bullshit when times are good, but we're almost to that point where things are going to start to get really bad for a lot of people, at least in this country. And without a solid business model, you're going to see these, organization after organization go belly up that weren't, that maybe haven't developed the proper business model.
yeah,
Or maybe they spent money on, like, I don't know, like a lavish team houses,
yeah,
there's so many things, there's so many things, so many ways to go wrong. And there's
yeah.
very
So
few
many, so
ways.
many like nonsense expenses.
Yeah. And it's like, it's kind of counterintuitive too, because, right now I keep on hearing about how, oh, well, advertisers are spending less and less on, whether on ads, whether it's
Yeah,
Google ads or stream ads or whatever. And
just in general, everywhere.
yeah. And it's like, oh, well, that's not going to help, right? Because if you cut the advertising, you're also going to cut the money you're making,
Yeah,
unless you weren't making any money from those ads in the first place. And that's the real problem, right? Because it's like you got an audience of 18 to 34-year-old gamers that are clearly mostly, maybe not in FGC world, but like other than that, most of them are, pretty, well off, right? Like you're not going to be hella into PC gaming when when you're generally like just trying to, make sure your bills are paid, right? Like most of these
yeah,
people are already pretty well off, right? But I think that a lot of these companies, a lot of the people that are selling these big ad packages, stream sponsorships, or let's say esports organization sponsorships, it's like they never focus on tangible metrics, right? Like, oh, well, how many clicks did we get? How many signups did we get? How many sales did we make from this campaign, right? Whereas, in I mean, that's the beauty of internet advertising, right? Is you can know exactly what your
Yeah,
what
you
you
can track it.
you can track everything. So of course the stuff, when times are tough, of course the stuff that isn't like painfully obvious in terms of how profitable or how impactful the campaign was, of course these things are going to get cut. And it's also kind of interesting too because a lot of people are younger, and this is probably the first time that they might be experiencing stuff like this. But
Mhm.
if I remember in 2008, right before Street Fighter 4 came out, dude, it was that was like
Yeah,
the thick of the housing
yeah, it
crisis.
was really bad. Like, I remember gas was like $4 here, and I mean, at that time it was different for me because I was part of Championship Gaming Series, so I was like, even though we're in a recession, it's like I was doing fine in it, so I didn't feel the 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 impact of it as much. But it was still like a pain to pay for like regular things and just do stuff. But I know it hit a lot of people really hard. That's why, you know, in later years, it was all about repairing everything, I guess, or providing jobs and all that. And then all the money came in from wherever, and then it was spent. And now we're back in like the same situation, and like not even just a little bit over a decade or 10 years, because that would be like 2018 from 2008. But that is when everything started to kind of go on the decline because people were spending so much money and doing things. So I think every decade kind of goes for that, because you look at the 90s, it was the same thing, because
Yeah.
they had a really good spending era where everybody was making money and all that. And then 2000s hit, and that's when there's like a recession. Then in the tens, that's when it went back up. So it looks like it's just a repeat. It's a recycle.
Yeah, and of course, everything is a cycle in life, and this is no different. It's just kind of interesting to sort of be on the brink of a brand new game that is going to like shake up the landscape significantly, just like
They
last
do
time.
in so many ways. Like, I was talking about the infrastructure, having a good online, great online, and crossplay, and like the I guess customizations and stuff for your character. It just makes people want to like sit around and play. And then you can run online tournaments with the best players like every day or every other day. And it's a lot you bypass. Like, you don't have to sit there and pay a venue fee or nothing. I mean, like, I would say still pay an entry fee, like pay the tournament organizer and the players. But uh, other than that, you cut out a lot, so people can save money. It'll be a lot easier for people to play in online tournaments than to even go to their locals. I mean, people don't want to hear that, but it's the truth. I mean, and I mean, going forward in the future, people are just going to realize, hey, look, we want to play on the best settings, and people can set up the best settings at their home. So events will have to adapt by either recreating that experience somehow, or it's gonna be tough for. I mean, of course they can just get the setups. I mean, I, like, local TOs shouldn't rule out LAN centers now in this day and age, because it will be really easy to just be like, all right, well, we'll go to this LAN center, let's cut a deal with them, and we'll use their setups to play on PC, and then just like optimize the setups. I mean, why would they not take that? Because they will help their business too.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense because before, I guess we didn't really think about LAN centers like that. Even though like I've played in LAN centers, right? But
Right.
you know, at least around, let's say in
They'll
my
put
experience.
back business into that. That's our new arcade.
Yeah. Oh man, they're not gonna like us very much.
Hey, that's what it is, though. That, like, you gotta call a spade a spade. That's if we're going to adapt to the future, then let's use all the resources available to us.
Well, yeah, yeah, that's for sure. Because eventually, Either we'll have our own places to play again because it's like we're in the opposite. We're kind of like opposite cycle, right? Because if I feel like the future is the near future, at least 2023 and 2024. It's like, oh wow, things seem like they're on the up and up to me.
Yeah, to me, that's how I feel.
but
Like,
it
yeah,
but it's
like
like
when
looking at esports, it's like, oh man,
looking at
it's
esports and how they're moving and all that stuff, like it's yeah, for us, it's looking up because it's like, well, things are just getting better for what we want to do. I mean, the whole point of going to events was because the online play was whack, or you couldn't play online to play with somebody.
yeah.
But now you're like, well, damn, I can just do this at home now and bypass so much stuff. You can cut the middleman because a lot of these people in esports were gatekeeping. I ain't going to front. Like having to have a middleman just to talk to somebody for different stuff is kind of dumb. And there's a lot of people that I ain't gonna lie, I just don't respect. Not like disrespectful, like I would be like just calling them out their name and stuff. But I'm saying like don't respect the esports. Like they'll show up and we're not anywhere around for like the last 10, 20 years, right? And I'm not saying like somebody that comes in new can't come in and be great and do stuff or whatever and be beneficial or whatever. I'm not trying to gatekeep because I'm calling out the gatekeepers, but they will move somebody up that is super green, doesn't know anything just because they like them. Of course, I mean that's just how it is. You get as far as sometimes as who you know, but then they will gatekeep the ones who've been here and were laying down like everything and paving the way and stuff. They'll gatekeep them and then tell them, oh, you got to do X, Y, and Z just to blah, 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 when the other person didn't have to do any of that. So I think a lot of that is just falling on his ass right now, basically.
Yeah, like the nepotism that's developed within esports is now it like they're now starting to pay the price.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely something that I've noticed at the two whatever. I mean they're dead anyways. Yeah, like Machinima and I would like at the beginning like companies go through this phase in growth, right? Where at the beginning, the only people that are there are the people who are like super stoked about whatever the big picture
Yeah, they're
is,
doing, yeah.
and then, let's say after they've achieved a lot of success or they got, venture capital funding, then, people just start hiring their friends and your friends sometimes are the ones that can do the job best sometimes, but typically that's not the case. Typically it's the people who have the
The expertise
the
and skill.
expertise.
Like that's who you should be hiring, not because it makes you feel good that they're there about yourself. That you should feel good about can they do this job well or not, and that's it. That's the only thing that we should be looking at when it comes to anything, in my opinion.
Well, it's super unpopular to promote to promote the idea of meritocracy, but that's what the FGC has always been, because it's whoever is the best is
Yeah,
the one that gets the most everything. Let's say the most
yeah,
prize money, the most respect, the most top player privilege, whatever it
yeah.
is. But people don't like to hear that, but that's not just the way of FGC.
That's
That
the way
is
of the world.
that's the way of the world, of mankind, of nature, of just everything. Everything is just about how much value do
Yep,
you generate
and
for
provide.
and provide to the world, or your, whatever your corner of the world is, and people don't like to hear that, but that's one of the things that I like best about fighting games.
Yeah,
because there's no, it's a very, there's no ambiguity with who won, right? There's no
Yeah, like
ambiguity with who's better.
dude, like getting into fighting games or just competitive anything, right? It is all about how good you are, how well you perform, and that it's not about, well, I didn't like the way you won, so I'm gonna just say it didn't count or something like, like people can't pick and choose if you won based on how they felt or what you did. So it's not like being an artist and, oh, I don't like that song,
Yeah.
so I don't, or I don't like that painting. I ain't trying to hear none of that. Like, this is exactly what happened. I won. I depleted their health bar. I knocked them out. Whatever. It's just, this is the objective. This is what happened. I don't want to be like, I painted this painting, but because you wasn't feeling it, it's no. Forget that.
Yeah, there's nothing subjective about competition. And our the competitive world, whether it's fighting games, esports, or anything competitive, it's all supposed to be based. It's all supposed to be based off of that. So anything where people lose sight of that, whether it's trying to get sponsored or build their audience as an influencer or whatever, it's not really the same thing as just trying to be better than than your competition, and it's okay, like it's fine. We live in an abundant world. There's more than enough for everybody. There's no reason why, you know, there's no reason why you can't, make your dreams come true in streaming and content creation and whatever, like there's so much room for everybody to do everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, competition isn't for everybody, right? Like
Yeah, it's not.
not everybody's built for it, but it's like, that's kind of the beauty of a community, right? Like a decentralized community of people with no formal structure, right? Everybody is just free to kind of do whatever they want or don't want to do, right? Without without it really changing everybody else's actions or decisions.
Yeah. Now imagine somebody was at the gym, is working out, and is like, my games don't work unless I make a thumbnail and title about this in the video, and then just don't like that. To me, that's what they are saying when they say, you got to build your audience. So like, why can't people just do what they're doing?
Well, I mean, it just depends on your goals, right? Like, are
Right.
you trying to build an audience, or are you trying to get godlike?
Right.
And maybe maybe both, which is
Try to
fine
do
too,
both. Yeah.
right? But not every, it. I think it just comes down to being clear to your being clear about what you want, by being honest with yourself, right? And a lot of people, especially now, I would say in esports, as we're starting to see this merge of what used to be just like competition. You see these big esports organizations, then they have their their team of tournament winners or tournament competitors, and then you have like, oh well, this is like the content creator team, which is like about the same size as the guys who play in tournaments.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the same thing anymore.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I just don't like the pivot that happened where it was about telling everybody that they got to be a show and tell monster, basically. Like, it's not for everybody. What, you like that? Show and tell
Show and
monster.
tell monster. Who hurt you, Carl?
Hey man, I just see all the time, dude. Like, where they be like, "Oh, you got to do this, you got to do that," and I'm just like, what y'all don't tell them is that the audience has to like resonate with them too. Like, that it's content creation is like art. It's not subject. Well, it is subjective to where it's like, oh, well, do they like with me? Do they like how I sound? Do they like how I look? Do they like how I talk about this subject or whatever? I can't just go compete against somebody in that. Like, you're not even competing against someone else's content. You're kind of competing against your content and what they want, and it's
It's you
very
versus
weird.
you.
Yeah, it's like golfing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's a lot like, I think it's a lot like playing the game too, because
Yeah.
there's I used to I used to take wins and losses like really personal when I was a lot younger and a lot angrier. And then somewhere along the line, I just started to see it as like there is no competition. It's just me versus me. And I think the same applies to content too, because you have a much better chance in content of like being the best, because all you need to do is be the best you, versus
Right.
like when, if you're, competing against other people in an objectively competitive thing, you know, like not everybody's going to be the best. But it's
Yeah.
like,
Just try to be better than what you were yesterday, and you won.
exactly. In Atomic Habits by James Clear, which is a fascinating book. It's like he writes about how you only need to get 1% better every day, and after a year, you will be 37 times better than you were at the start. And it's like, so many
Yeah, it's
times,
pretty good numbers.
yeah. I mean, because even even if, I mean, of course, we're all busy, right? But if you spend that like 5 minutes a day with the game, whether it was like in training mode or watching your replays or whatever, like that definitely gets you to that 1%. And if you just did that every day, you would be, you'd be so much better than, the people who, like let's say once a week, maybe they play for like 2 hours, or like, maybe
Yeah.
a couple times a month they like play like all day or whatever, but it's like that's not as effective at
Yeah.
getting better
Doing it every day,
every day.
even just a little bit, even if it's just like 30 minutes, but every day.
It doesn't, I mean, dude, to hit that 1%, like dude, it happens to me like multiple times during the week. And I'm just like, oh man, if I don't, like, I just have to open the game. I just need to open up my notes and just start writing. And it takes less than 5 minutes to get that 1% better. You only
Yeah.
needed to, like, you just need to work on that one thing, figure out
Yeah.
one answer, and you're like way better.
And it sticks with you.
Yeah, because you're going to think about it tomorrow.
Yep.
Yeah, man, but at the same time, even knowing that intellectually, I'm still only kind of able to do it half the time. But even hopefully, even if I'm not 37 times better by doing 1%, hopefully I get to that level because I'm doing 1% some days, but I'm doing like 5% other days and 10%, but
Yeah.
it's like still consistent, and we have to apply that same mentality to being good at the game, to making content, streaming, and whatever. Yeah, because it's just about building the habits. Because it's
Yeah. Once you have the habits, because at first, see, like when people don't do it, it feels like it's going to be a mountain to climb. But you really just got to do it, and then you're like, oh, it's just doing these exact steps, just replicating it over and over.
yeah, it's like it's like getting good at anything, but it's also kind of like going to the gym, right? It's like, we waste all this mental energy thinking about how how unpleasant it's going to be to go to the gym, right? And then once you're there and you take that first step, then you're just like, okay, well, I'm already here. I'm just going to do it.
Right. And then it's smooth. And and you forget, and while you're doing the workout, it's time to go.
Yeah,
The last rep.
exactly. Hero C14 is saying, I think it was Andrew Huberman or someone else who talked about how getting better as a child is more free since there's no stress or responsibility. But also Daigo did it right with his gaming apartment. Have you read Daigo's book?
I read the will to keep winning. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, like that's one of the parts that sticks out for me. And if you guys haven't read The Will to Keep Winning, you need to you need to just put that on your list and at the top of the
I
list
gotta
and
read it
get
again
to
because
it.
I forgot about this game part, apartment part.
Yeah, he had a whole separate apartment to play out of where he had his training mode
Oh yeah, that's right.
setup, and then he had his online setup, and then he would, I forget what his schedule was of going there, but he was there all the time, but it wasn't where he lived. And the other thing that stuck out to me about his work ethic was the part where he talks about how the day at, I forget which tournament it was, but I think it might have been like the first big Street Fighter 4 event that he won.
The GameStop one.
Yeah, it might have been that one. It was like pretty, it was kind of like early on, but it was still it was still a big deal. And he was talking about how after he won that, the very next day, like he was just back in the arcade grinding again. Whereas other people, maybe it wasn't the GameStop thing, maybe it was, I think it was Evo. I think
Okay.
it was probably like, it was one of those. It was a big deal. He won, and he was just back at the arcade the next day, like, not no. Oh, I'm going to Disneyland or whatever.
Right, yeah,
like
yeah.
you win the Super Bowl or whatever. But Daigo was just back on the grind the next day, like, and I think that that's pretty consistent with a lot of guys who win at that level. Like, you ever, I mean, I don't know about you, but so many times you see like the Japanese win, and it's like they don't even look surprised. And I'm like, you see, it's not that they don't care, they have no emotion. It's that they expected it.
Yeah, they are too prepared.
Yeah, like they knew before it even started that they were gonna win. So it's like, oh
Yeah.
well, I won. Like, of course I won.
Yeah.
I mean,
I ain't gonna lie,
you're
I
a,
did that too.
that's what
Because
I'm saying. You're a 4-time world champion, Carl. Like,
yeah.
the years that you won, what was your mentality going into it?
The first year I was really just trying to like survive because I was sick and I got there and I was just trying to like sweat out a cold and stuff.
Wait, this was
And
DOA
yeah, for
4 with
DOA.
at CGS.
No, for Evo.
Oh, for Eva. Okay.
Yeah, in 2006, like I was just trying to make sure I was good to go because I made it to top 8 in losers, so I had to come back all the way to win that way. But I knew if I was healthy, I could beat everybody. So I was healthy that day, and I didn't feel like I would lose. I mean, like anybody, I don't know too many people who's made a losers run from like starting loser side top 8 and still win.
Yeah,
There's
that's a
like a
mountain.
short list. Yeah, there's a short list of people, but I was able to do that, and it was like I just had strong confidence in how I felt like I was studying the game as much as they would too. But then like for MK9, well, I'll just say this: any years I won, I never felt like I'm worried about anybody like they will beat me. It was more so like I just got to make sure I'm playing my best and nothing stupid happens. I was always more worried about equipment failure or something like that than I was about how I was playing. But because when the first time I won though, I it like clicked and then I like jumped up and like celebrated. But up until that, I wasn't thinking like oh, I'm about to lose or whatever. But then when I won uh the second Evo, I didn't expect to lose, but I knew there could be a possibility from like not having any character experience versus some stuff. But I knew if I knew what to do, I would win. But then like the last time I won, I knew I was going to win as soon as I stepped foot in the door. And then like after I won, I felt like I got to pretend like I'm excited or something because I don't even feel anything. Like
See, I
I
knew
didn't
it.
feel shit. I was just there to prove myself again and basically be like, "Duh, I told you so," and that was it. But it's main that confidence comes from preparation. Like Kobe Bryant spoke about this too, to where you as much you prepare for every situation, so you know what to do in every situation. It's not going to catch you off guard or nothing. So as long as you do that and you go into the match and into the tournament and just do what you're supposed to how you're supposed to play and don't overextend and stuff and just use what you need to do, like you're good to go. And that's how I've always felt at most of the events that I've won. Like I'll admit, like in the events that I didn't win, I can just say I was not all the way prepared. There's always something that was seeping through cracks that I didn't cover a hole or something. So it's really what being a tournament winner is covering all your holes or avoiding them.
And so what like what was the process that you used to like to prepare for every situation? And
Uh,
yeah.
Experience just from like going and playing people because there are some games that didn't even have good practice mode. So it was like I just had to like improvise, like, put myself in situations or play against. It's like a lot of trial and error, but also a lot of improvising to saying like, oh, I think this will work in this situation, and it sometimes it would, sometimes it wouldn't. But then in games that I could actually practice in and figure out the options and cover everything is just knowing exactly what to look for each situation, like round start, post knockdown, if they jump, if this move after this move is blocked or whatever, just knowing every situation and narrow it down.
And so when you're trying to train in a game that, has good training mode,
Yeah.
what are you somebody who writes everything down? I mean, I know you got a book
Oh
out
yeah, yeah,
now,
yeah. I
but
write
like
everything down.
in
Yeah.
like in like text
Everything.
files on your phone?
Yeah, yeah, I'll put in a notepad on my phone, like say if I'm out and I'm not at my computer, but mostly I'll get on WordPad and just write everything down. And then on there, go super ham. And they'll be really organized just because that's how I want to see it. And because I can't just be writing different stuff, I might not even know what I was trying to say. So it's like I am programming it into my brain when I do that.
Yeah, I remember, man, I used to take a physical like notebook, like a little one, to the arcade, and people would look at me like so weird. But like, I wish I would have done it sooner. I mean, this was like 2000, like 2008, 2009 ish. Writing physical notes in a notebook, but it's so important, and it's something that I don't think every player does, because I think most players, at least most players, I don't think go through the trouble of having like really detailed, organized notes, because I feel like most players think that they remember everything, whereas
Mm.
I'm just like, dude, I can't
No, forget
remember.
that. I gotta write it down.
Yeah, I have to write it down.
After I write it down, I don't go read it again, but I just remember it. That just it is. I think it's because I'm visually reading it. It allows me to like keep it.
Yeah, there's definitely something to, I mean, because in order to write it down effectively, you have to formulate your thoughts properly, and stuff comes up in the process of writing it that helps to crystallize your thoughts. And so now, man, my setup, I'm really stoked on my my personal knowledge management system when it comes to fighting games now in 2023, because like
Yeah,
it's the tools that we have available now is like so much. It's just head and
makes
shoulders.
everything so much easier.
Yeah, because like, dude, I went from writing stuff in physical notebooks to using like Evernote and then Notion, and now I use this app called Obsidian, and it's like, oh man, the people. I feel like if you're not doing that, you're just not hit, like you could be like significantly better, but it takes effort to do it. And I think people also like oftentimes they either wrestle with their ego, or they wrestle with the other part of their brain that says like, oh, you don't have time, or you don't need to do this, or whatever. But it really does
They're
make a
their own worst
difference.
enemies.
Yeah, because even if you eventually end up remembering everything, it's only because of repetition, because of the number of times that you've either trained it or you've seen it. But writing it down and keeping like organized notes is just one. It like counts for way more reps, I guess. You know, there's like there must be some kind of ratio where it's like, oh, okay, well, you could save 20 like 20 times being in the situation. If you just wrote it down, it would save you like those 20 times of getting hit by it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't think it matters whether you write it down by hand or whether you type it, as long as you're consistent and make an effort to be organized. Especially now, like, you know, it's so much easier to be organized, even though this isn't one of the things that is taught in school generally, and it's certainly not one of the things that's taught in you know, by most people who are trying to, I mean, it's not even, you know, when we think about the infrastructure, right, there's not even really like much of a infrastructure for people getting better at fighting games, which is, you know, one of the things that, you know, we're both trying to do, right, is just make it easier, right? Because I'm always trying to make the stuff that my 9-year-old self wanted and needed and didn't have.
Yeah,
you know, when
much.
like when I was trying to get good as a literal child, you know.
Yeah, because the resources and information was out there. Just look at how easy it is to get video online. Like, it was not that easy back in the day. You had to like do so much work with the VHS and stripping and DVDs and porting stuff over, and you know, also just getting strategy guides and stuff. If you didn't know about GamePro or whatever, you're not going to get the strats. If you
That
didn't know what channels to go through, so it was all about reliance on, did the kids your arcade bring like a little piece of paper with the fatalities or
Yep.
special moves on it? Because that's what it was back in the day. So
Yep.
and now it's like there are tutorials and guides built into the game that tell you what to do, or at least give you a scope. And some of them might lead you to the communities that play the game online and all that stuff. But we do have an issue with like community archiving of different stuff, like even strategies. I mean, at first, like we had everything with Shoryuken and other sites, but they all went down. And this whole focus on clout and clickbait stuff has diluted the archiving. Because, like, I mean, I know we can find Seth Killian Domination 101 online, but that should be like an introduction to every player that enters the scene.
Yeah. It's true.
Because people come in thinking wrong. Like, example, look at Smash Brothers, multiversus scenes. They all have like the scrub mentality, or not all, a lot of them have the scrub mentality of like, oh, well, if someone's playing this way, I don't want to play with them, even though you're in competitive format. Like, they don't like people who turtle, or in their words, camp, whatever. So whatever they do, they try to make rules for it, or they try to
no items.
no items, or they try to ban the character. Like Steve in Smash Brothers, apparently he has like some game breaking glitch, but they was trying to get him banned before the glitch came out, just like how they were trying to ban Meta Knight in Brawl. And then in multiverses, they'd be like, well, we don't want people to be able to camp, so like they'll do stuff like have Superman's projectiles and stuff nerfed. Like now, if he does his eye laser, it has a limit of 3 or 2 or something, which is dumb. I mean, like, so you gonna tell me Superman has a cap on how much he can eye beam people, and on top of that, they made him have a drawback or cooldown on his breath. So you mean to tell me Superman has asthma? Stop. So it's a bunch of different stuff like that is just unreasonable.
I mean, you know, Wonder Woman is totally unnerfed, right?
Yeah,
like they didn't touch her at all.
yeah, I don't think they did anything. They might have made her better, and that's it. Actually,
Exactly.
yeah, they did.
Exactly. yeah, Superman. Yeah, Superman's got a cooldown, so he's not too strong. You know, it's just a game, Carl.
Regular man.
yeah, regular. yeah, I'm gonna play. I'm gonna play regular man in this 2-on-2 free for all. Oh my god.
And in Dragon Ball, people are complaining about the fusion characters. You mean the strongest characters in the lore, Gogeta and Vegito? You guys can complain about them. And Master Ultra Instinct Goku, they're literally the strongest characters on the show, other than the characters that don't fight because they're stronger than everybody. Like, come on, dude. And they're like, well, they need to be nerfed. On what grounds? Like, whatever. It's yeah, dude. I think we got some more esports tweets though. We gotta look at.
Oh yeah. Good idea. Let's look. Okay, Maui Snake. Hot take. If you're a pro player, you should be focusing on the game and improving with your team. Interviews, anything outside the game to be relevant should be pushed to PR. Wow, it must be nice to have a PR team that you could just push that to. Esports is in a place where you could focus on the game and let your performance speak for itself. Yeah. I mean, there's so much to unpack there.
Right.
Oh my God. That's
push to PR.
Interviews, anything outside the game to be relevant. Anything outside the game should be relevant, should be pushed to PR. Esports is in a place where you can focus on the game and let your performance speak for itself. Oh. Well, I'm not even logged in, so I can't even blame this person for blocking me. But here, let's go down this rabbit hole of further down the line. Hot take. Wait. Okay. All right. Hot take.
Respond to him.
If you're a pro player, you should be making content building. This was the original tweet that guy responded to.
Yeah.
Jake Sucky.
Yeah, and Jake's Sucky luck. Well, I don't know which order to say it in, but he's a pretty cool dude. I've spoken to him before, but yeah, this is the whole thing that's been parroted by so many people that you got to build your brand and do this and that. I mean, it's like, I don't know. There needs to be something better in place for people to just focus on being good instead of all that extra stuff.
Hot take. If you're a pro player, you should be Hot take. If you're a pro player, you should be making content, building your brand and image, interviews, streaming, anything outside the game possible to be relevant. Esports isn't a place where you can sit back as an athlete and rely on your in-game performance yet. There's a lot to unpack there. I don't know. I mean, is he a pro player? It looks like he's just sitting at a desk.
I don't think so. I don't know what game he plays.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, it definitely looks... Well, I don't know. I don't even know who he is. But there is a lot to unpack there because, man, I don't know how I feel about that. I think I probably would have said the same thing once.
Yeah. Back in the day.
Maybe
a good 5 years ago.
Back in the old world, yeah. I think back in the old world, that's definitely something I would have said. That's why it's like I can't even... it's a perspective. People are in this for different reasons. And the other thing is, it's also new that there really isn't a standard yet for any of it. And there is something to be said, for making content and building your brand and image. There's something to be said for that if that's what you're trying to do. But if you're trying to be the best, ain't nobody got time for that. Yeah. Send these requests.
Being the best, I'm sorry. I'd rather get $1 million prize money for winning other than all the other stuff. I mean, at this point, at least
you want to be famous, don't you, kid?
Yeah, don't you? Yeah, that's basically, dude. They're basically saying, hey, if you're a pro player and you're basically like being a pro player is kind of like shooting in the dark. You're betting on yourself and to compete and stuff, right? But they're basically telling you to, instead of being a pro player, pivot to being to shooting in the dark somewhere else. Because at least you know if I get good and I beat these people, I'll win this money. But you can have good content, put out good content, and the audience still don't resonate with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Ask me how I know.
Like,
Yeah, 100%.
yeah, so I mean, you're saying shoot in the dark where it's guaranteed that you can get something to not shoot in the dark. I mean, they should be
Well,
talking about just building better infrastructure, like I said.
well, it is part of it to part of infrastructure is having a PR team to handle all these things.
Yeah.
Nobody has a
Have a
PR team.
universal PR team for esports players. Just like they have a like the public defender lawyer that comes in for people that
Yeah.
can't.
For people who can't
Yeah,
afford to find to get a real lawyer.
right. They
Yeah.
come in there.
Yeah,
It could have been records.
yeah, I'm the FGC PR manager. It says right here on this memo that you said some inappropriate things on Twitter and now people want to cancel you.
These.
Yeah, I could definitely help you with that.
You are no longer allowed to make money or feed yourself or go to a grocery store. You can only now rot.
Step into my PR office. We could fix this. Oh, yeah. It's oh god. See, I don't know about that. Esports is kind of like battle rap, but they want to turn it into WWE. Yeah, I don't know about that. I think if
They definitely want to turn everything to WWE. They go as far as rigging brackets now, just like how they rig storylines.
see, I personally have always resonated more with the WWE vision, not necessarily fixing the outcomes, but sort of focusing on building the story. That I'm into because wrestling promos are obviously head and shoulders above anything else with the exception of maybe like UFC promos. That's it. But it's only fighting. Like fighting brings out the best in promos. You just don't have that in other sports. Virtual or physical, And we
Yeah,
need to cultivate that.
but okay. Look, the wrestling promos are dope, but a lot of the wind under the sail was removed from me once I was told that all the storylines are just created. They ain't just walking into a locker room and just having beef randomly and stuff. It's like, and then when you work in the industry, I guess, and are on camera and different stuff, so you understand how somebody's like, all right, can you say this, but then do it like this and whatever. And they change everything you do. And I
Oh,
understand that people would be,
you're talking about like your experience as a pro gamer on
yeah, my
on
experience,
television, on
yeah, on
legacy
television.
broadcast media.
Yeah, because they'll ask you a question and want you to say something, and then whatever answer you give, if they don't like it, they want you to say it a certain way too. Or they might like you, be like, "Well, say it more like this," or "Say it more like that,"
Yeah, but
or "Don't
Carl,
say it." And it's
how would you say that if like if you're how do I say this? If you grew up in Harlem instead of
yeah,
Toledo, how would you say it, Carl?
yeah, like stuff like that, man. Like, and it's just like, are we a show or is this really reality? And it's not, because everything is doctored up. So when I look at that, I picture in my mind when they cut a promo, I think of the dude saying, "All right, go here, stand here, and I'm gonna stand right there. You see a little square on the ground? That's where we want you to stand with the X." And because you know what I'm talking about. They do
I
that's
definitely
literally
know.
word for word what they be saying. So then they come in there and they got the camera. All right, now do this, and then they start talking and saying whatever. I can't get down with that because I know it's not real. It's different than you have two UFC fighters or boxers, and there's a what the pre-fight show or whatever where they stand off. They legit want to throw hands at each other. So the promos and stuff that everybody be talking about are fake. Like, yeah, they're good acting. It's great acting, but I'm just saying, like, it's hard for me to get behind that. And then they want to bring that into fighting games, and I understand it's entertainment, but then they be picking and choosing who's the heel and who's the face, and I don't like any of that stuff because I don't subscribe to any of that. Like, it's just corny.
Because there are no good guys or bad guys. There's just guys that are there's just guys.
Yeah. So who we want to be the villain or hero at the end of the day, and I don't know. I just don't like it. Like, of course, let the audience choose wherever they want, but in boxing and UFC, man, it's like they're legit showing up there and fighting. No one's picking John Jones to win. I mean, we're picking him to win because, you know, he's the best. But I'm just saying, like, they're not saying, all right, we're choosing you to win because we want you to win, so go ahead and win.
So you believe?
What?
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I got you.
I mean, you believe that UFC is real.
All right.
I'm not saying they don't get it. I'm not
real then.
Yeah.
But I do know, like, all the stunts and stuff they're doing, they're not really stunts. I mean, they're wrestling out there too, but they're still picking and choosing who. I mean, like, even the ref doing the count 1, 2, 3. Sometimes they'll do it too fast. Sometimes they do it too slow. They'll be like 1. Oh, kick. Like, stuff like I'm sorry, dude. It's just I love watching it. Like, my favorite wrestler is Shawn Michaels, but I haven't watched since the 90s really. Or early 2000s, actually.
Well, I'm a lifelong wrestling fan, even if it goes in and out, even if I go in and out of it, because it's just there's so you can everything I needed to know about fighting games from a not from a competitive sense, but everything aside from the competing part, I learned from pro wrestling, and continue to learn. But I totally feel you because a lot of the presentation is just, you know, when it's not done by people who do it all the time, they almost always screw it up. And that's, I mean, it's also new though, you know, I mean, there's not even going to be.
Yeah, where everyone's trying to get the formula down in the way that they think is best.
Yeah. And that's kind of the beauty of it because it's not going to be legacy broadcast media that, you know, pushes the whole thing forward, you know, then, you know, it's
always going to be grassroots.
Kind of, yeah, because
that's why wrestling is big too. Grassroots. It's not just like WWE and all the other organizations. It's also like, it's really, really the grassroots shows in smaller towns that build up the wrestlers to get to that point to where they can finally get to that level and market themselves and compete.
Yeah, but before all of that, it was just regional promotions, you know, like the dawn of WWF at the time was sort of the end of the regional promotional era, which would kind of, it may possibly be where we're at in the timeline, right? Where it's not just about the locals anymore, right? There's like there's like multiple large circuits at play now, right? With, you know, $2 million Capcom Cup being, you know, the first one to throw down the gauntlet.
Yeah.
Let's yeah, let's look at another one of these. I wish I had a voice. I wish I had a voice for these. Tanaya Ree says, esports money funneling bubble bursting. Makes perfect sense. Why sell out venues when you could do the same things digitally and get a better return? Like with most things, hope esports homies not putting their eggs in one basket. Damn. Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, For real, like she basically just said, online tournaments, right?
I'm cautiously optimistic about online tournaments because I think it's gonna kind of be more like poker, online
Hmm.
poker before the I don't know. Poker was getting pretty wild before one day Obama sent his goons to, shut everybody's, digital card games down in America. And I think we're gonna experience a lot of that when Street Fighter Six comes out, simply because the it definitely feels like an idea whose time has come, because now we live in an age where the netcode is good, and
Yep.
through the magic of optimization, we can legit have as good a setup as we can possibly make it, you know,
Yeah.
as opposed to, suffering under the tyranny of 8 frame lag on a PS4 at the beginning
60
of Street Fighter
hertz.
5. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh man. I mean, at the beginning of okay, this was 7 years ago that Street Fighter 5 came out, right? Like we weren't even thinking about things like that.
Right.
But 8 frames was still a blow up.
Yeah.
And so now, because the netcode is better and because Battle Hub is really good, and because it's just like this perfect storm of factors that are coming together to potentially make make it totally plausible to be a pro Street Fighter 6 player from the comfort of your own home and never leave the house.
Yep. And dude, like being able, it's crazy to have like optimized PC because it feels better than the setup that you will play on at tournaments, most of them.
Oh, for sure.
Like even online. So it's like, dude, what's the point? We can play on crossplay.
Yeah, I mean, offline events, it I'm I just think it's going to be better for the events that are already big, and
Mhm.
it's gonna be hard to. Is it going to be hard to start something new? I don't know. There's going to be. It's not that it's going to be harder to start something new. It's that there's going to be less people starting new stuff because online is just way more straightforward, easier to execute, cheaper, and you can do it all the time. I mean, imagine, you know, entering an online tournament, entering more than one online tournament at a time. So you had like 5 different games, 5 different tournaments going at once. Kind of like people would play, as many poker games as there could, as they could, you know, in the online poker world. And I think the same thing is going to happen in fighting games. And we mix that with where the world is going, in terms of crypto, because what's going to happen is, as it becomes more of a thing, people are just going to start betting on it, and then that's just going to sort of further drive a wedge between, let's say, adult FGC and like PG-13 esports, right? Because if there's one thing I know about FGC people, it's like motherfuckers are degenerate gamblers. So
Yeah, they be hella trying to gamble on everything.
on everything. And I mean, I ain't the moral police, right? Like,
Yeah.
what do I care? But there's definitely going to be a divergence, because you're not going to be able, I don't think you're going to be able to do that on Twitch, right? It's going to be like, for
Right.
anybody who remembers like Salty Bet, it's going to be like that, except with real money. Whether it's fiat Biden bucks, or,
Biden bucks.
or crypto. Yeah. I mean, what do
Yeah,
you,
Biden. Did you know that they're making Mugen, uh the thing the version of Mugen they use for salty bets, they're giving it rollback.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, in all my years, I've never played Mugen, but I've always, I've always seen it. Like I'm
There was a time
aware.
where I was obsessed with Mugen because I wanted to create like the perfect Dragon Ball fight game, right? And that was the only way to do it. So I used to try to get all the characters and put them in there. And there was like some games I could play, but it was never like 100% what I wanted. But people made a whole fighting game using Mugen Dragon Ball characters recently, but that's why I used to be obsessed with it.
Damn, dude, that's crazy. I
And they got crazy stuff like Omega Tom Hanks and a bunch of other nonsense.
But it's okay. So I don't know anything about Mugen. I've only just, sort of seen it and have a vague understanding of how it works. But it's like you could just throw anything in there, or the
Yeah, you
engine
can
just
throw
lets
any
you.
2D character from any game into the thing because it's basically they're just taking the sprites and then they're uh, coding the sprites to do a bunch of different stuff. So it's basically like a customizable fighting game, but you got to know all the ins and outs of actually editing and coding and stuff.
But then how there have to be like some kind of limits or something. You can't just like make a character
I
that.
actually do not know.
Or is it like the honor system? Like, okay, like we kind of have like a framework for, standards for making characters so that, it's
No, no, no idea. I think nothing is off the table in that game.
I it definitely seems like now is it's we're like reaching this point in like our PC evolution where mods are going to be way more of a thing because
Hmm.
like when you look at the biggest the most successful esports titles ever, right? Like
It's a mod.
exactly.
Counter Strike's a mod.
Counter-Strike is a Half-Life mod, League
They're
of
about to come out
Legends.
with Counter Strike 2 finally after 20 years.
Yeah, and it's like it takes that grassroots effort to make something so like so wildly popular,
Yeah,
right?
because it's backed by the people.
Exactly. Backed by the people instead of like, oh, well, you know, like,
That's why Melee's still around.
yeah, like you can't just be a AAA game studio and then buy Twitch's most expensive ad package and then expect that your game is going to somehow,
Yeah,
you
they
know,
got to already be into it and wanting to be there and see it.
exactly. And that's, I think that's where it might, oh man, it might actually be FGC's time to shine, Carl.
It might be. It might be. I mean, look, once Capcom announced that money in Street Fighter 6 and
That
we
was a game
already
changer.
accepted and love the game,
Yeah. Dude,
like
I know, right? I hadn't thought about it that way, but you're spot on.
we already accept
I was
it's
already
like
into it.
yeah, it was like the Smash community getting Melee, right? And then you're like, all right, here's some money. For us, that's how it was because we were already going to play the game without even we knew Capcom Cup was going to happen again. We was already expecting maybe 100 grand for first place, whatever, ready to grind, right? And then it's all that.
It never even crossed my mind that they would do something so drastic.
Yeah, we was expecting Riot to do that, but Capcom was like, no, this is our lane. We need to set the tone.
Yeah, Mr. Capcom sent a message.
Mr. Capcom.
Dude, I mean, I've been playing I feel like I've been playing for 30 years. I never knew that there even was a Mr. Capcom. Right? Like this, who knows how long this guy's been in charge?
Right.
Maybe he's been in charge the whole time, has just been waiting,
Yeah,
waiting
waiting for the right time.
for the right time to just, oh, the the world is on fire. Esports is in shambles. Everybody thinks, there's no
Street
future.
Fighter is rising from the street
Yep.
to
As-
save
To
esports.
save esports. Stand aside, kids. We'll show you how it's done.
Yeah, because I mean they're one of the precursors to this, man. I mean, all these other games that were out weren't out in the '90s. They
It's
didn't
true.
dominate the arcade for a decade.
I mean, most people are, the vast majority of people that are going to be playing Street Fighter 6 have never even set foot in an arcade and will probably.
They're going to though in the battle hub.
Yes. Yes, they will. Man, they just need to, if they just add voice chat, not
Oh
like,
my god, proximity voice chat.
yes,
Like
proxy.
get on the
Yes.
sticks and be talking shit to whoever's like near you. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, maybe. You know what? You know what?
I'll
Look
be
at
looking for you all day. Be like, you thought you was running for me?
this
I
server.
found you another server.
Yeah, this server ain't big enough for the both of us.
Right.
Mm-mm.
It'll be the Wild Wild West. All I do. I would be so tight.
Yeah, you're on my watch list. I just teleport to your server. There's no
Right.
escape.
Dude, somebody did it to me in the beta. They looked at the list. There's all perfect legends in here and teleported to me. I was like, what?
Well, you're gonna need you're gonna need your PR team.
Yeah,
Yeah, get the public PR defender in here to
everything to them.
yeah.
Take really pulled that
take
shit
a number
out of his pocket. Like, talk to your PR team right here. Like, what?
Oh my god, that's so funny. Oh, Robert Cesario says saved by ESG money. You know what? I was wrong. I'm a big enough man to admit when I was wrong, and I was wrong about ESG. It is, in fact, the best possible thing to happen. You know what? If we have to hire some people for diversity's sake, if we got to make sure there's more representation,
hey, it's okay.
but now there's $2 million extra dollars. You know what? Maybe selling our soul wasn't so bad after all.
Did we sell? We didn't sell anything.
You're right. We just bought in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to be on the off cycle of everything else because it's like, man, people are about to be kicked out of their houses. People are going to be losing their jobs, and we're just gonna
be playing Street Fighter 6.
Yeah, at home. Oh yeah. Oh man, let's look at these tweets before I forget. Sir Scoots, veteran of the space, one of the very first friends I made in esports, actually 1,000 years ago. He says, I'm not quite ready for the people who burned all the VC in the last 5 years to be telling the rest of us how to fix the part of the esports ecosystem that they broke. No thanks. You shitheads have done enough.
That's going back to the main problem. We're just inflating stuff. People were like, yeah, esports is projected to make X amount of money next year, and then all these people would buy in and then hire all the wrong people, and yeah, that's what happened. Now we're in the esports recession.
God, that's so funny. No thanks. You shitheads have done enough. Hearing that some esports orgs had money in SVB. Oh no. Talk about adding insult to injury this year. Oh my God.
That's a Silicon Valley thing, right?
Yeah. So for those, I mean, I think it's
educate the people that don't know.
Yes. Okay. So, in case you missed it, Silicon Valley Bank, which was like one of the largest banks in America up until yesterday, where they were shut down by the regulators. The regulators shut down one of the largest banks in America because there was essentially a bank run, and they didn't have all the money that the depositors were trying to get out, and a couple, I guess also earlier this week, they tried to sell, they try to raise more capital from their investor from like the stock market through, they're a publicly traded company. They tried to raise money through selling more shares of their company, which is like a really bad sign if you're supposed to be the one with all the money as as the bank. So they didn't have they were like short on cash, had to liquidate a lot of their assets, and then were ultimately shut down on Friday. And what's interesting about Silicon Valley Bank is it has this narrative that it went under because they were investing in risky startups and or crypto companies and all this stuff. But when you look at the balance sheet, it's really not like that. It's like they were hit by a bank run. Whether or not there was anything nefarious tied to that remains to be seen. I mean, this kind of just happened over the past couple days, but it's a big deal because of all the different companies that were either depositing their money there or had loans with them. So that's like most of Silicon Valley, but I guess also is extending to esports. And when these types of things happen, I read an article that said that this is the biggest U.S. bank collapse since Washington Mutual in 2008. So, I mean, that kind of puts it into perspective. But the big thing about the other big thing about
is it bigger than that, or is it like
it's
as
the
big
biggest
as an equal?
it's the biggest since.
Okay,
I think the number I read was $260 billion.
damn.
And what makes SVB different or interesting than most of these other, similar banks is they only had like 3% of their total depositors' funds are going to be were FDIC insured because which means that 97% of the deposits are not going to be sort of like immediately returned, because in America, every deposit in most banks, if your bank is part of the Federal Reserve System, which most of them are, each depositor is insured up to $250,000, which sounds like a lot of money, but it used to be a lot more money when they enacted this, like 100 years ago or whatever. And so, so if you had less than that deposited, you're supposed to get your money by Monday, which sounds crazy to me, but also that's still only 3% of the total amount that's, up in the air now. And so,
Damn, so you can make all this money and they'd be like, well, guess what? We can't actually give you your money.
because a lot of these companies, especially the startups, were trying to take their money out so they could make payroll. But because of the way that, fractional reserve banking works, I mean, I guess we're getting into the weeds here, but honestly, I feel like this stuff is important to know, because if you don't understand what the fuck is going on, you are going to suffer in this country, in my opinion. Because it's like
the dollar has gotten like weaker.
oh yeah, I mean, ever
Prices
since
are getting higher.
I mean, all you have to do is just look at 1913, and when they when the Federal Reserve Act was introduced, you just look at the buying power of the dollar over the last 100 years, and I mean, it's not a straight shot down, but it doesn't go up at any point. So, I mean, it's
going down.
yeah, I mean, it's been like 100-year-long bust, but a lot of people in that in that group of companies, which is, not just startups, but, like tech companies, esports companies, crypto companies, and, those that do business with them, like these people they're not going to be able to make payroll. Right. And when you combine that,
Scoots pointed that out, man. It's a A lot of those teams are invested in that bank.
Yeah. And so, it remains to be seen whether this is sort of like an isolated incident or whether this is the beginning of, a contagion of other banks collapsing, you know? So let that be a lesson to us all. You cannot just assume that your money is going to be safe. Although, hey, if this small number of people actually do get all their money from the FDIC on Monday, I'll be impressed.
That actually good though. It sucks when anybody can't get access to their money for any reason. So I hope they all are able to get everything they invested.
Yeah, same. Because I have not had I haven't had that. I haven't gotten hit by that one yet.
Yeah, that's
But I did get hit by the Terra Luna collapse, and I did get hit by Celsius and Voyager. So, like, I understand.
Yeah, the worst I got hit, man, is when we had a house fire and had to survive off of savings until the house got renovated. That shit sucked.
When was that?
This was 2021.
Oh my god!
Yeah, at the beginning, literally at in January, like
damn.
Yeah. So like the whole house had to be renovated and all that stuff. I lost a lot of clothes. Yeah, it was just a lot of shit. I think I got all my trophies still. I think they're all in the box.
Well, at least you got the ones that matter,
yeah,
right?
I got yeah, the Evo one is in the closet.
Safe and sound.
Yeah, save that in the belt.
You don't have it up on the wall?
I did. I actually used to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Time to remake your shrine to yourself.
Right, exactly. Pretty much. It's just, man, it's just a lot of freaking drawbacks from that, and it's a pain in the ass. But it's I don't know. It's like when I left streaming, that was another one of my times, and then I was on Pro Time for a little bit, but didn't go nowhere with that because as soon as I got on the team, they started doing the whole lockdowns and shit, so couldn't go nowhere, do nothing, and then had a fire, and then got dropped from the team, and then it was so annoying. But yeah, dude, like being put in a situation like that for anybody, I definitely have my heart out for them and hope, especially like for everybody esports affected by this stuff, all the layoffs and I hope they all can either create something better or get into somewhere better.
Yeah, I mean, we're not all gonna make it, you guys.
Yeah.
Esports ain't for everybody. Unfortunately, it ain't rated E for everybody.
Yeah.
There's
an E in there though, capital, but yeah. But I do feel like more people can still get in it and benefit it, but we just got to have the proper infrastructure. I know sports didn't start off like perfect.
Honestly, it's not about. I personally am of the belief that smart, talented, hungry people will never be out of work because
100%.
Like, dude, trust me, if you just got laid off in esports and tech or in tech or something like that, if you actually think you're godlike at what you do, let people know. Like, I'm not handing out jobs or anything, but hey man, like I'm always looking to know more smart people, and this might be your chance. You were stuck trying to hit this glass ceiling, trying to get out. Oh man, why can't I climb this corporate ladder? The system is rigged. This could be the best thing that ever happened to you.
Yep.
You could be sitting at home like me and Carl.
Waiting for Street Fighter 6.
Waiting for Street Fighter 6. Yeah, you can just wait with us. And then we can win dozens of dollars.
Now we're going for the millions and millions.
The millions.
Or the thousands. Dude, Second's got to get at least like 500K, something like that.
I don't know, man. Mr. Capcom seemed pretty dead. That part looked like it was totally his idea. He's like, they had the whole team. It was like, that meme of the Japanese boardroom where the guy gets thrown out at the end. It was like
Yeah,
that meme. And they were like, yeah, we want to put $2 million up for CPT. And he's like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. They're like, yeah, okay, so here's like the breakdown of how the prize money. And he's just like throws the guy out the window. He's like, no, $1 million
1 million.
for one player.
Yeah, it's like should you play everybody, and then you probably got thrown out the window.
Yep. Long way down. Yeah. So what we're T minus 70 days ish. Yeah.
Hey, it's
It's
coming up.
it's right around the corner. What are the what are your priorities?
Uh, just
Between now and then.
probably just keep working out and optimizing the content creation side of things, like just being able to post like clips, short form stuff, getting guides and things together for newer players to optimize the learning experience so they can get into just playing as soon as possible and understand what they're doing. Because that's been always been a big issue for players coming in. Like ourselves, when we were younger, we were like trying to get better, and the resources either don't make sense or they're not there. So now just capitalizing off that, and then getting people optimized with FGCOS and spreading the awareness on how good PC is for like fighting games and just in general, and what we should be using as our tournament standard and not playing on lag. Also pushing out game food like physical copy and
Ooh, you got the physical copies of your book?
not yet. Is very 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 close to being done. So like what I plan on having that out before Street Fighter 6 comes out. But yeah, that's within this window.
And the ebook is already available.
Yeah, the ebooks are available.
And where can people get it?
You can get that at perfectlegend.gumroad.com.
Nice. Yeah, man. I'm right there with you. We we got
Just
books.
staying prepared and ready to go, basically.
Yeah, we got books. Got books to put out.
Yep. Got to level up the scene so then we can beat up the scene.
Never tell them everything you know. But
Yep.
but there's people that don't even know that they're gonna love this game right now.
Yeah. It's Street Fighter 6 is, dude, like, I didn't, when I first played it at Evo, I didn't get the full scope of the game because one, they had us playing on like unoptimized setups. It was laggy. And two,
You got some.
uh,
You got Johnny
the
Donuts breathing down your neck, like, "Hey man, next you're gonna."
yeah, like basically, but actually in the booth, it wasn't like that because they had like a line and then they'll bring people there and then you be on a setup and then they tell you when you got to go or whatever. But that's it. Like it wasn't like a long line like in the arc. It was a long line, but they separate with the playing area from the line, so that was cool. And but yeah, it was laggy, man. And despite like I was like, okay, I'm just gonna make sure I can still play Street Fighter in Street Fighter, so I'm still anti-airing and whip punishing and all that stuff. But it was laggy. It wasn't until I played at home in the closed beta that I was like, yo, this game is better than Street Fighter 4, it's better than Street Fighter 5, it's better than Third Strike, it's better than Super Turbo, it's better than the alphas. They hit this shit. They definitely did. Like all the drive gauge system, everything, how drive impact happens, how you have to like basically be on point the whole match to win. And you're rewarded for being on point the whole match. It's not like, all right, I'm on point for 70% of the match and they just guess right and then now they have to guess right a couple times and it's over. No, you have to be on point the whole time because you got to manage burnout, you got to manage your drive gauge meter, you got to manage being in the corner or not, you got to make sure you don't get by random drive impacts. Then you also still got the parry there to help with neutral and then the drive reversal. And then if you want to be offensive, there's a drive rush. And then they got all these cool combos. There's one frame links are back. Like it's, yeah, the game is dope.
And is all this in your book?
No, because it's a separate. It's like the book is like how you play fighting games and how you should think about them in general. It covers all the different like feels like 2D, 3D, like a platformer, but it doesn't have like, okay, this is reuse combo or whatever, because that's, I feel like, is a separate thing to that. So once you have the book, it's like, all right, this is how you should always think about when you play fighting games. So it'll be easier for someone to know when they get on a newer fight game what to do and how to practice to get to a certain level, and then how to help their friends get better, um, and playing against them, even someone who's not good, how to make the most of your time when you play someone who's not good, or when you play somebody that is good, how to watch replays, how to pick apart replays so you can understand how to level up your game, and a bunch of different stuff, tips from around like mental stack, and they'll tell you what that is. And it's a bunch of different stuff in there, but that stuff is not in any fighting game strategy guide. You're not going to see that. You're just going to see specific stuff like Hadoken command and the super and the combo that goes with it, maybe the frame data for it, and the strategy for the character. That is separate. Now, like writing that and making that separately is going to be a thing, but it won't be a book, because like if I were to do a strategy guide for that, I would like it to be licensed from Capcom or whoever his developing team is. So then like people know like this is that book. So it'll be just based on, hey y'all, I got the tech and the strats. Boom. So I'd rather just like put it out in my newsletter or just post a video on YouTube, because like I don't actually own the property of Street Fighter or Tekken, etc. But at least how to think, yeah.
Yeah, they haven't outlawed that yet.
Yeah. Because they got the anti-air trainer, but they don't tell you how you should be thinking to anti-air to make sure you anti-air every time.
You know, the training mode in this version is just so much. It's just light
Yeah.
years. It's a
It's really
quantum
good.
leap forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really good what they can show you with the frame data counter. Because I mean, coming from like MK and DOA, they have frame data in those games too. And Street Fighter 5, they just had on block on attack data, but now it's like the full scope of everything. And then they have ways that you can set up the drills and stuff. So it gets people into playing the game well, but then like knowing the strategies of what you should do, I don't know if that's going to be in the game or not, or whatever. Because like say, I don't know if they explain, hey, every move is just about a minus, but you got a drive rush so you can be at advantage. Like that may or may not be in the,
I don't think that's gonna. I think the menu is cluttered enough. I don't think they're gonna have anything like that in there.
yeah.
You're gonna have to figure it out your own self, or you're gonna have to
Or-
go, or you can save yourself the struggle and the time and the frustration, and just go to perfectlegend.gumroad.com
Yes, sir.
to shortcut your way to Game Fu success.
Level up.
Level up. Well, Carl, it's been a lot of fun. I think we covered a lot of ground, and we had a good laugh at the expense of esports. While not, it really wasn't at their expense. It kind of was.
Yeah. I mean, things are going to
That's
get
fine.
better, though. I mean, things get worse before they can get better. So everybody that's going through tough times, they're not going to last that long. Don't beat yourself up. It's not your fault that anything went down. It's the fault of the people with the inflated numbers and investor sheets that they give to them. That's, I mean, if anything, be mad you were sold a bill.
Unless you're not really that good at what you do, then
Not providing value.
exactly. But hey, you know what? If you're watching this, you're in you're already on the up and up. Because we're on us in FGC world, we're on opposite schedule.
Yeah, we're on opposite trajectories.
Yeah. So don't worry, stick with us, kid. You'll be fine. Carl, where do people go for your videos, and where else can they find you?
Yeah, you all my like VODs and stuff are on YouTube. My YouTube is Perfect Legend. Well, it's not is perfect, but it's perfect. Like I have the Perfect Legend name on
Link in the
YouTube.
description.
Yeah, link in the description, and that's where you can see most of my stuff. I'm trying to just make everything centralized there in terms of just all the content, because I feel like it seems like that's where the gaming community is for what we do for the most part, at least. Like even in our VODs, you can see like match videos from years ago. That's where most of the viewership and the community is. So that will be the best place to reach out to people who actually want to get good and sweat and stuff. But also, yeah, I'm posting a lot of my short form stuff on Fresh Cut, so people want to see the HD stuff, they can see it over there. Because during my streams, unfortunately, I can't stream at like 1080p, so it's at 720, 60 frames per second, so I can have smooth gameplay. But the recording offline is always going to be top notch quality.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah. Hopefully, yeah. So check out Perfect Legends channel on YouTube, and yeah, this was fun, Carl.
Yeah, thank you,
We'll.
man. This has
Oh
been
yeah,
dope.
no problem. Yeah, we'll do it again soon. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday morning or Saturday night, wherever you might be. Yeah. Thanks. Yep. Thanks and see
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Yep. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time. Later.
Peace.